Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of In Search Of. Today we are on location in Greenwich Village in New York City to do something a little different. We are looking for the buildings and locations that inspired one of America's most iconic artists, Edward Hopper.
And today we're going to go to several spots that may be the actual inspiration for Edward Hopper's Nighthawks painting. I'm excited about the potential of being in the space that inspired Edward Hopper and really try to get a sense of what he saw.
Edward Hopper changed the way we look at America. It was in America he was the first to notice, and he became an American legend. A legend based on the loneliness of his pictures, on his isolation.
He said what he always wanted to do was paint sunlight on the side of a house. He also said that it was much easier to paint, electric light, a nighttime scene.
We are on a scavenger hunt of sorts, trying to find all of the locations in the Greenwich Village that inspired Edward Hopper to make his paintings.
Hopper's artistic style was a form of quiet realism that used stark light, architectural geometry, and emotional isolation to turn everyday urban moments into psychologically charged scenes, something he captured in New York City by painting its apartments, offices, rooftops, and diners as stages where people seemed physically close but spiritually miles apart.
He had this ability to capture a lonely, isolated feeling without being focused on loneliness, but at least isolation in a city of millions of people. A lot of times there are people in the painting, they're not usually interacting with one another. They seem like alone in their thoughts.
I went up and down 7th Avenue, trying to find 7th Avenue shops. Later he changed the title to Early Sunday Morning.
All right, here we are on Bleecker Street in New York City. This is one of the possible locations of Edward Hopper's Early Sunday Morning, which behind me, if you see these windows and the cornice at the top, there's a good possibility that this inspired that painting. In Hopper's own words, the original name of that painting was called 7th Avenue Shops. This is not 7th Avenue, this is Carmine and Bleecker Street. But then people found some older pictures that show a barber pole that matches the original painting. So it's quite possible that he gleaned some inspiration from this spot, whether it was the fire hydrant or the barber pole or the shadows themselves. It's quite inspiring to stand here and think, hey, maybe this is the right spot. Maybe this is where Hopper got his inspiration.
There had been many painters who had painted New York City in a more romantic mood, especially the people of the city, the crowds and the human interest. Hopper began painting the city itself, this great structure of stone and cement and glass and all the various lights in the city, the play of lights.
Hopper's creative process often involved making sketches of scenes that struck him, and later returning to his studio where he would combine and refine those impressions into carefully composed paintings shaped as much by memory and mood as by direct reality.
I make various small sketches, sketches of the thing that I wish to do, also sketches of details of what I need in the picture.
They're not exactly what he saw. They are made from sketches, just simple black and white sketches, and his imagination went to work and he painted them in the studio.
The place where we're going to go right now, which was made famous in Edward Hopper's drugstore painting. It's now a bookshop, but this one's a more literal translation, a literal painting of an actual location that you can visit in New York in 2024, which is pretty great. As close to consensus on any of the locations that you'll find that this is the inspiration for this painting. This bookshop, 3 Lives and Company, on the corner here of 10th, West 10th Street and Waverly Place. This column is virtually the same. It's almost identical. And there's even a little light bulb where that little light bulb is. This little step up is there as well. It was rounded at one point. And the doorway, albeit moved a little bit closer, could have been done by Hopper in his studio just for composition's sake, taking liberties as he often did. At any rate, I'm very convinced that this is the right place. There's windows above on a brick background, at least 3 windows, 4, maybe 5, they're all there. This is exciting to see this and see how similar it really is after all this time. I feel good about that one.
You mentioned that your pictures come very slowly,
They do.
and perhaps you could tell me something about that.
Well, it's very hard to define how they come about, but it's a long process of gestation in the mind.
All of these different places we're visiting today are kind of a mix, and they could have all inspired his paintings. He may have done some sketching or made some mental notes, went back to his studio and realized, hey, I love how the light was coming out of those windows at night.
What do you think is the content of your pictures? What's your main interest in painting them? What do you think makes you choose this particular furniture in the picture that's become so very much Hopper furniture, as it were? You know, the empty street, the frontage of the house. You have a particular landscape that you've made your own. What's drawn you to it? Have you any idea?
Well, I suppose it's just me.
One of the locations that we're standing in front of right now is 139 Christopher Street. It is currently a noodle bar. At one point it was called Nighthawks Coffee Shop because some people are convinced that this is the place where that inspired Nighthawks, one of the most famous American paintings of all time. It was painted in 1941/42 by Edward Hopper in his Washington Square Park studio. In my opinion, this is not the proper location, but maybe it was one of the spots that Hopper saw that inspired him to do the world famous painting that is now at the Art Institute of Chicago.
He was influenced by different art forms. He influenced others, a young singer, a guy who acts and sings named Tom Waits. He wrote a song called Nighthawks, the very name itself. Suppose we hear that.
Great.
And here's how a painting influenced a contemporary songwriter.
Nighthawks at the diner, Hammer's 49er. There's a rendezvous of strangers around a coffee early night. All the tipsy hacks and the insomniacs, now the paper's been read. Now the waitress said, eggs and sausage and a side of toast, coffee and a roll, hash browns over easy, chili in a bowl.
If you can imagine this building without the greenhouse addition, it really could possibly be a match for Edward Hopper's Nighthawks. It's on 7th Avenue, a very short walk to Edward Hopper's studio at Washington Square Park. He ended up saying to the world that it was on a street like this. It was Greenwich Avenue where many streets came together, or where streets came together at an angle. And that's certainly the case here. I also like how the buildings across the street in the background, while they don't look exactly like that, you could see how he might simplify it. And some have said that these buildings here in the background are actually very similar to the ones from his early Sunday morning painting that was supposed to be on 7th Avenue. There's no consensus, but this is the fun part, is finding places like this, angles like this, where you could totally imagine Hopper being inspired by that view at night with the glow coming out from inside.
Speaking of Nighthawks, that Hopper had admired a particular Ernest Hemingway, and particularly a short story he wrote called The Killers,
Of course.
which kind of evokes that atmosphere.
I didn't know he
you see in
admired The
Nighthawks.
Killers, but The Killers certainly has it. These two guys in there waiting, They got knocked off again. They meet in an all-night greasy spoon.
Right, but you know, in the Hemingway story, nothing ever happens. They never make their killing. And in Hopper paintings, nothing ever happens either. We're all set up, but we never see what happens.
So that makes for the tension.
Yes, there's this implied drama, and you kind of try to figure out what it is, but the paintings are never narrative.
No.
So here we are in front of West Village Florist, 70 Greenwich Avenue, New York City. For my money, this is probably the most likely spot for inspiration for Edward Hopper's Nighthawks Diner painting. There's a lot of things going for it. The shape of the building, the triangular end and the triangle of sidewalk at the end of the prow of the building. I don't think any of the places that we visited today are the exact spot. I think all of them are sort of some kind of an amalgam or a mixture of things that he saw, that he brought back to his studio and eventually put into a painting that we know as Nighthawks. To walk around in these streets, especially in the village where so much hasn't changed, you can really kind of conjure Edward Hopper walking through here and noticing angles of buildings or light coming out from a building at night. This could very well be what Hopper saw when he's walking around near his studio.
He annexed whole parts of New York architecture to himself. So you'd walk along the street and say, my God, it's a Hopper street. Well, look at that Hopper house. I think that was his relation to New York. He made it so much his own that you can't look at any of those places without thinking Hopper instead of whatever they happen to be.
As I've mentioned, Hopper's studio was in Greenwich Village at Washington Square Park. It wasn't just a studio, he lived there with Jo, his wife. So it's no surprise the inspiration for many of his paintings would be found in this neighborhood. This was the New York he knew, and the New York that inspired him.
He did some of his most famous paintings, most of his most famous paintings in that space. So all these bushes and trees are in the way, but in 1965, this is him walking down the steps with his wife. That's his wife, that's him, coming down these steps.
I got very excited at the roof at Washington Square. He did a few pictures up there. I thought I'd found a perfect match, but someone had dropped in a huge apartment building and painted the roof the wrong color.
This is the door we're gonna go in, right here, this number 1. This is awesome. Wow. And the potbelly stove is still here and everything. Wow. So this is where he would clean his brushes and such. The picture on the wall right there is a picture of him in 1941 taken by Arnold Newman, and the blank canvas on the easel ended up being Nighthawks. And I think he made this easel just to see his authentic tools in the space where he worked is unbelievable. He painted Nighthawks right here. Early Sunday morning he painted here. That's crazy. I couldn't be happier about having had a chance to visit that storied space. Just amazing, amazing.
I mean, I don't think there's anything of that left. What Hopper depicted is left anymore in New York. New York became something else. Became monstrous, became inaccessible. It became fantastic. I mean, it's not what it was. It's not, it's a different kind of thing today.